want to say thank you to everybody for the invitation to come in and talk about this sensitive topic of grief. In my work through the years, a lot of people have said to me, oh my gosh, that must be so depressing. How can you get up in the morning and go and listen? And I can tell you honestly from the bottom of my heart that it's been an honor to work with these families and to do the work that I do, and I feel so passionate about it, not only helping them cope, but also to educate our society, because honestly we don't do a really good job in the United States of supporting those who are grieving, supporting those who have lost anyone, or as I'll discuss, you know, loss is many facets. So I just want to share a little bit about myself. I graduated with my MSW from Widener, and really for probably the past 20-25 years of my life, my career has been a nonprofit. I worked for Gilda's Club in Delaware Valley, if anyone's familiar with it. It's in Warminster. It's a wonderful cancer support community, named after the late Radner. Yeah. Sadly, they've changed their name because a lot of the new generation doesn't know who Gilda was. I know. Broke my heart. Most recently, I worked in, at the Gift of Life Donor Program in Philadelphia. I was a hospital services coordinator, which if you can think that doctors and nurses need education around organ and tissue donation, and that I would walk in and be the one to educate them and that they would actually listen. Sometimes I did that for a number of years, and then I moved into being a bereavement counselor for donor families who needed to make that decision about letting their loved one be an organ donor, and then I helped them with the aftermath. And then I've also worked as an interventionist for Fox Chase Cancer Center, doing some things at Sisters U now, which is really exciting, and I've been at multiple seminars and trainings for on death and dying. I also taught at Bucks County Community College, their thanatology program, for the last 6 years. So one of the things that I like to start with is September 11th. I think probably everyone in that room, in this room, remembers September 11th. As a nation, it was something that really surprised us, God bless you, and it unified us. Usually when I ask people, are there things that you remember about that day, they can tell me where they were, they can tell me who they were with, they can tell me how long they watched the TV. Also, you know, have vivid memories about it. I'm sure all of you have some recollection. Would you say you did?
Yeah, absolutely. Very strong.
Yeah, yeah. And to be so close to home. One of the pilots was, one or two of the pilots was from Yardley. To be so connected as a community was really something that just really touched all of us. And when I talked to my mom about September 11th, she recalls, now this is a different generation, when John F. Kennedy was shot and how that impacted her generation. And so we remember that and we recall that. And I don't know if all of you or any of you feel the same, but I always think twice now before I get on an airplane. And I think that's just because of how this left me. And one of the most important things that I learned early on, because I have a congenital heart condition, so I was in the hospital at a very young age, and that's pretty much where I grew up, in hospitals. But loss doesn't wait for a child to grow up to be an adult. Loss happens in childhood, and that helps us to form and figure out how we cope with loss as we grow up. So developmentally, when the loss occurs, as we develop, that loss stays with us and it grows with us, and it either can be dealt with and we can help a child cope, or it just perpetuates. And I think, I'm not sure if everyone has a teen in their lives, or are have teenagers and you're parenting them, but I just wanted to pull this in because this is really important right now. I learned this at Gilda's Club. I can't tell you how many people that were coping with a cancer diagnosis did not want us to share that with their children. They would just say, I don't want them to know, I think it's better. And for a teenager now, this is what their code is. Without any information, they're going to assume the worst. So I'm just encouraging you that if you have a teen in your life, to start talking to them if something's going on, whether it be a death or whether it be the possibility of dad or mom losing their job. Whatever's going on in the household, inform them. And I understand, because a lot of parents have told me they don't want their kids to worry. You know what? They're going to worry. And you not telling them is going to make them worry more. Their security is going to be compromised. They're going to wonder if they can trust you. And also, they don't want all the details, but just tell them something. Give them a little bit of information. And let them know that you're with them and you're going to walk with them through this. Also, just don't drop the big bomb on them. You know, don't pull them into a room, we're divorcing tomorrow. You're going to go to Philly, and I'm going to go, and you're going to go to New York. And then don't give false hope. And I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned at Gilda's Club, is that it was very hard to tell a child what the outcome may be, but with support, a parent can walk their child through that.
So when you say give some warning before, like, what do you mean? Like,
well, you know, maybe little hints through the week. We're going to have a family discussion at the end of the week. It's going to be some changes that are going on. I just want you to know that some of it's going to be hard to hear, but we're going to be here as a family together to walk through it.
that's not going to just make them insane?
No, I think, well, like, think about like a 9-year-old. Okay, well, what is it? Then just give them a little bit more information. I think you don't want to overload them so that you're going to have the discussion on Friday. You know, if you think that maybe you should have it a little bit earlier, then have it a little bit earlier. I just think that if it's something like the death of a grandmother, grandmom's in the hospital, they're going to be making some decisions about her treatment. Would you like to go see her? Offer that opportunity. My mother-in-law died suddenly, and I called my daughter, and they were going to make a decision about withdrawing support. And I said, do you want to come here and see her? She was 11 at the time, and she chose not to. But that was her decision. I would have supported her if she decided to come. I think if you have an inquisitive, you know your child. I know your child. If you have an inquisitive child,
There's
you
no
know,
red flags. Yeah.
you're going to have that discussion right then.
Yeah.
But you know your child. I just would not just drop a big bomb on them, like I said. Mom and dad are divorcing tomorrow. Your life is going to go upside down. But they know what's going on.
They
in
would
the
know
house.
that there are issues. I mean,
Right.
you'd have to start with something like, we're having problems.
Exactly.
Then you move
They
in.
know. They know that there's fighting going on in the house.
Yeah.
It's not happening behind closed doors. They know something's going on. From a therapist's perspective, has anyone heard of the DSM? It's a big book. So they have a code for bereavement. Now that's been changed a little bit. I just want to share how we think about mental health. So it's in the DSM under bereavement. They basically say that for an adult, it should take about 2 months to get over grief. And that's when the numbness starts to wear off. Right?
Wow.
But wait, it gets better. For children, for 23 years and younger, 6 to 12 months. So they're giving them a year for a devastating loss.
Where was this written?
It's a book that therapists use for, you know, for diagnosing.
Why would you say that?
Wow.
They just revised it, and I believe that bereavement has a little bit more give, but not much. Because it's not recognized in this society. It's really not recognized in this society. When you think about, let's think about the workforce. When you have a loss in a family, how long does your employer give you?
3 days.
3 days, yeah.
Now, if we all moved to Australia, we would have 6 months.
Wow.
When you think about Paris, if you have a child, you have a year of maternity leave to stay with that child. What is it here?
12 weeks.
Well, not always.
There we
6
go.
weeks.
Shauna knows. 12 weeks on paid.
Some companies only have to give 6 weeks.
And so now we enter, and I'm going to go through the definitions, but now we enter what we have become in our society is we maniacally Google. We Google everything. And we Google grief. And we Google, I mean, what don't we Google? We think about, you know, but maniacal Googling is the new stage of grief. We start to look for something to help us to feel better. and we go online, and you know, there are a lot of support groups online these days because people are grieving across the country. And there are some really, really great reputable ones, but kids are doing this too. Kids are going on and they're Googling. And they're finding support. So here's the thing that I like to say, and when I talk to people, that death is universal truth. We're all going to face it. We all have faced it. Grief is the great equalizer. Everybody in this room has experienced some type of loss. So we are all equal in that. We grieve differently though. So it's about talking about our grief and letting people know. And really not covering it up. Everybody is affected by it. So here are some definitions. Thanatology is basically the scientific study of death and dying. Grief, deep, intense sorrow or distress, and bereavement is the condition of having been deprived of something or someone of value, and especially through death. Mourning is the action of expression of one who has suffered a loss and is bereaved. Thanatechnology, and that's only come out in the last couple of years, is technology and grief. And disenfranchised grief. Can anyone name what would be considered disenfranchised grief?
Sure.
It's grief that's not recognized by society.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were looking for examples.
There's a pet. Pet loss is disenfranchised because even though it was my companion and I love that animal, I'm not going to get 3 days off of work for that. I'm not going to get it's not going to get noticed.
Or a friend.
Loss of a friend. Sometimes too, it can be with a first and second marriage. The second wife might not be invited, depending on her status in the family and how she's recognized in the family.
When Prince died, where's my
Yeah, when friends die.
Yeah, like, no, I'm just joking. When Prince died, some of us were deeply sad.
Absolutely. When Michael Jackson died, I felt like the universe, something was going on in the universe. Like, Michael Jackson is dead? What? Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Princess Diana.
Princess Diana. Mm-hmm. Yep. It all affected us, but it wasn't,
I think early stage miscarriage is very
Absolutely.
because it's like maybe, and actually I haven't experienced it, thank God, but I think when it's early stage, people are just like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, it happens to so many people, and it's really not a big deal. But I think that I find our society really discounts that, and I think it's much more people that I know that have experienced much more impactful than I think that people realize.
Absolutely.
They discount it easily.
Absolutely.
Society.
And I think too, even like a stillbirth. I've had this happen at Gift of Life a couple of times, where the parents have said, we just didn't leave the hospital with anything, like nothing, not a blanket. And so we've really started to put in practice and talking with the neonatal that they need to leave with something. But yeah, absolutely. And there's actually an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, and they will come and they will take a picture of the baby with the parents. So the nature of loss really, at some point, involves meaning making. That meaning making for some people may come right away. Some people it takes years to ever find a meaning in that loss, whether it be a job. Oh, 2 minutes. Wow, I gotta go. It disrupts life flow, and of course, it's extremely stressful.
And you're talking lots of loss. I mean,
I'm talking
loss
lots
a
of
lot
loss.
in all areas of life.
Yep.
I mean,
And here's the little examples here.
yes.
Our health,
I mean, loss is
our
everything.
homes, our careers, our friendships. We lose friends, through divorce. Who goes with a wife and who goes with a husband? Like that's a loss. Personal safety, that's a loss. Did anybody see in the article about the woman in Seattle who was running and was attacked? And 3 days before she was attacked, or 3 days or 3 weeks, she went and had a personal defense. She went on for a defense class, and she he beat her up, but she beat him up just as much, and she got away. But she's gonna, that trauma is gonna stay with her, and not feeling safe is gonna keep her back. But you know, Oprah said that aha moment, when the elevator door opens and there's somebody in that elevator and you get that feeling, don't get in the elevator. You know, that's personal safety. That's taking accountability for your personal safety. We all know her, right? Pioneer of death and dying, and how to treat their patients, their dying patients. So the stages of death and dying really came out for the dying person, but we've adapted it in grief. So I cannot tell you how many people have called me and said, okay, I did not go through the bargaining phase. How am I processing this right? Or I'm still in the anger stage, or I'm in the denial stage. You could go through all of these. You may go through 2 of these. And you could go to denial, to anger, back to denial. You can float all over this chart. And some people say, you know, I went through the bargaining and then I just accepted the fact that this was the situation. So there's 2 grieving styles that we look at, intuitive and instrumental. Of gender, for genders, who do you think would fit into what category? Who do you think's female and who do you think's male? Intuitive is who? I'm sorry?
Female.
Very intuitive. Very good. So we talk. We call our girlfriends. We talk to a therapist. We cry. We physically let it out somehow, emotionally. You know, we tell the person in the supermarket. We tell everybody. Men tend to be more instrumental. They build things. They'll go downstairs and they'll build you that wine rack that you've been waiting for 20 years. That's what they'll do. You know, or they'll be in the middle of doing something. Sorry, Joe, this is you're the only man here. But they'll go and they won't talk to somebody until they're actually doing something. And then it may come out. And just really back to the kids. People under 30, this generation under us, have never known a world where the computer has not existed. So everything is fast, and bad news travels fast, and everybody knows. And this is how we use it, and this is how kids are using it. We're using thin technology, social networking sites, websites, email, blogging. I mean, tons of blogs out there about coping with grief and loss. Online gaming. Oh, what did I do? But what Heidi's going to talk a little bit about in a few minutes is that we cannot find compassion, empathy, inspiration for others if we first do not give it to ourselves. So how do we find compassion for ourselves? And so, anybody see Eat, Pray, Love? Anybody read the book, Eat, Pray, Love? Okay. The book was better.
Yes.
But I like the movie. But at one point, if you remember, Julia Roberts is in Rome, and she's in the ruins. And she said this quote, and it really struck me. Ruin is a gift. Ruin is the road to transformation. And for me, that was, she was in Rome, in the ruins, and those ruins are what built up Rome. So while it's difficult to go through this loss, that's the only way you're going to get through it. You can't go around it, can't bypass it, you have to go through it. And you have to slowly start to find your way back.
Just to give you a little bit of my background and why I'm here. Ever since I was little, I knew I wanted to help. I had this innate desire to help people. At first I wanted to be a nurse. I chased my little brother around with Band-Aids. And, well, first I would beat him up. And then I would fix him, right? So I don't do that to my clients now.
Okay, I feel better.
But then even I think I was still in elementary school when psychology, I don't even know how I found out about it, but I just had this knack for understanding. And understanding how people work, how minds work, and how to connect the dots. So I went to school. I got my bachelor's in social work, and then my master's in social work. Was a psychotherapist. I spent a decade in Japan. I was planning to go get my doctorate at Widener. Actually, it was my plan in clinical psychology. But Japan kind of gave me a different path. And it all turned out perfectly. It was in Japan where I learned the old ways of healing. And so Reiki and yoga and meditation, all those things became my hobby, and I had a passion for learning about those things, how to help people heal in that way. And when I came back to the United States, I was lost. I had no idea what to do. I'd been away from psychotherapy for a while, so I decided to follow my passion of healing. I went to massage therapy school, and I'm a lifelong learner, so I couldn't just stop with massage therapy. No. I went to craniosacral therapy and lymphatic drainage and myofascial release and all these different things, and I came upon something called energy psychology, EFT or tapping. And my life, my heart just blossomed because everything I had studied up until that point came together to this. So EFT is one of the things that I use most in my practice. And I am a success coach, but I'm actually a stealth healer. Women come to me usually for help in their business, help in abundance, and what is usually holding them back is trauma, very often trauma. And so a lot of the work that I do is trauma release. I'm a success coach, but if you come to me, watch out. We'll have a plan for success, but we're going to get to the roots of why you're not getting there. So, try to run through this. Button. Okay. All right, so feel, deal, heal. When Kim and I got together and started talking about this, we thought these were powerful words. We want to get to healing. When we experience a loss, we don't want to stay in it necessarily. So how do we get to heal? Well, we need to feel our feelings and we need to deal with them. The first step, I think, and some of this might be subconscious, you may not actually understand that you're going through this, but the first step is clarity. In shifting or healing anything, you need to have clarity of where you are. Okay? So Kim gave us a great framework of what grief and loss is and how we can understand it better. But the first step is understanding that you have had a loss. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about the different types of losses that we can go through, because it's not only death and dying, right? So you have to recognize that you've had a loss, and you have to acknowledge that it has an impact on you. Okay? And step 2 is choose. At some point, if we're going to get to the healing phase, we have to choose to move through it. We have to choose to deal with it. Okay. And I read this, decide to honor yourself. Like, this is part of the decision. Decide to honor yourself and where you're at without judgment. Okay? So often, especially as women, we judge ourselves. We judge how we handle things. We judge how we deal with things. So if you've experienced a loss of any kind, I want you to think about this and just honor where you're at, wherever you are in the process, and try to do it without judgment. You are where you are. You're handling it how you're handling it. And just try to be okay with that. Okay. Decide to allow the healing process to begin and choose to receive support and support yourself in kind. Okay. So, what types of loss are there? We talked with Kim a lot about death and dying. So from the audience here, what types of loss are there besides that? You mentioned first stage miscarriage or miscarriage at all, right? Divorce, absolutely. Anybody else?
My mother's going through dementia, so the mother,
Absolutely.
the mother that I knew is not the mother that I'm dealing with now.
Yeah. So loss of a relationship, of a parent in that way, right? Anybody else?
Career.
Career, right? Yes.
Just the loss of the plan or loss of the picture, that any shift that says, okay, so that's not going to happen.
Right. So loss of a dream. Yeah. Right. Yes.
People who are victims of, they're not victims themselves, their friend, their mother, someone's a victim of a crime. So the loss is not only death, but the anger at this being taken from them so brutally and for no reason, it seems.
Absolutely.
I work with at-risk kids in my career, and I was really happy to hear you talking about teens, because they need honesty and clarity from people. They know more than you might think. When we did a living tolerance conference, I did it, then my interns did it, then I got to have the students do it, And the smartest kid I ever saw had kids step onto the line if they had a loss, and he talked about different kinds of loss, and every damn kid in that place got on the line. He said, now turn around and shake hands with the guy behind you, because you all have something in common, even though some of the kids were from the Quaker school, and my kids thought they were the goody-goodies, and some from this group, some from this group, you know, the thugs and everybody else, they all had this in common, that everyone experiences loss. I was awed by his teaching.
Yes.
Well, loss of identity.
Absolutely.
For 3 years, I was a divorced woman, and I owned my own home.
Yes.
Great pride in it. Then I met the love of my life, and I got married in Turkey, which I'm glad I let you find out. But it was weird when I first moved into the house, because I was like, I'm the wife now, and I love being the single. I mean, I love him, but I miss my life as a single, independent woman.
Right.
So that was kind of tough too.
Yep. That's absolutely a loss, right? It's a shift, and there's a gift in what you stepped into, but absolutely a loss of identity. Okay. So, death, divorce, separation, a broken engagement. I just met with a new client recently, and I think she's going to step out of that engagement. The relationship is not going well. He's not treating her well, and so that's why she's coming to me. A breakup, right? Even if it's not an engagement, any type of breakup. A friend relationship can blow up, right? Health. Right? If you've lost a physical ability, someone who loses a limb or has a spinal injury and can't walk anymore, a woman who's had a mastectomy, it's all loss. Moving, right? Job, identity, purpose, empty nest, right? Who's empty nesters here? That's loss.
Take that one off.
Dreams, finances. I put miscarriage, abortion, right? And spirituality. I have spoken with many people their spiritual beliefs have shifted or changed or been challenged. That's a loss. Okay? So don't just think of the grieving process and the need to go through the grieving process just when it's death and dying. Any of these things and more, right, constitutes loss. And I want you to be, I'm speaking to you guys today here as women, and Joe, you're here too. But my call to you is to be compassionate to yourself, okay? So feel. To effectively heal, acknowledging and feeling our feelings is critical. Okay, so we have the emojis here. Oops. All right. So what feelings do we experience when we go through loss? I kind of shifted there. What feelings do you feel?
Angry.
Anger, perfect.
Guilt.
Yes. Yeah.
Confusion.
Confusion.
You know, like why?
Right.
What did I do?
Yeah. Okay. Deep sadness, sorrow, numbness. Can that be a feeling? I guess so.
Anger.
Anger. Yeah.
And I think it depends on the situation, sometimes relief. If it's a situation that has been ongoing, that has finally kind of ended. Which then you feel guilty.
Relief.
Yeah, guilty for feeling relief.
So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, feeling our feelings is really important. It's not comfortable. Right? Shauna?
No.
Oh, 5. Oh, goodness. 5 minutes. Okay. I'm going to stretch those 5 minutes. Our natural tendency is to run from anything that's uncomfortable. Okay? But you're not really going to get to the healing stage unless you allow yourself that space to feel your feelings. Okay? So what happens when we don't allow ourselves to feel our feelings? Well, for me personally, in the last 3 years, I've had 7 major losses. 6 deaths, and 1 relationship that blew up. And in the midst of that, I wonder what happened. I stuffed some of those things down in my body, okay, because I'm strong and I'm a therapist, and it wasn't complete shutdown, but it was enough that I actually developed pneumonia. I developed pneumonia last year around Christmas time. And it was shortly after one of the most significant losses. And the lungs is where grief is very much expressed. And if you think of energy centers, and this is the heart center, and the lungs can really
receive the energy of the grief if it's not expressed. Okay? So that's what happens. We tend to put grief in our bodies. Any loss is trauma. Okay? In psychology we talk about big T trauma and little T trauma. Little T, you know, for a second grader, a stern look from their teacher is traumatic. The loss of a stuffed animal can be traumatic, right? And of course the big T trauma are the big things that we're talking about. But it's all trauma. Characteristics of trauma are that it's unexpected, it's dramatic. You feel isolated and you feel powerless to do anything about it, right? Okay. And the mechanism of trauma is we have 3 choices. The mind gives us 3 choices on how to deal with trauma. We can fight against it, right? We can flee, right? That's the fight, flight. Or what happens is we can freeze, and that's very much what happens very often with loss. We can't do anything. We can't fight against it. We can't run away from it. So what happens? If we're not expressing it, that moment, we download it physically into our tissues, and it gets encoded in our cells. Okay? That's why I experienced pneumonia. All right? So these are just some charts, and I'll run through them since the time is ticking down. But we actually have, and this comes from integrated energy therapy, and the points here, which are the heart points, is where sadness and betrayal and loss are actually cellularly implanted. Okay, there's another example here. Oh, let's see, sadness, depression is over here. You can see where the depression is. Sadness is up there. Here we go. Here's the sadness. Okay, interesting. It's at the heart center, right?
Oh, it's off the.
It's off the thing.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Oh,
Okay. So the point being, though, that we download our feelings into our body, especially if they're not expressed. So we need to feel. Give yourself permission to feel your feelings. Don't place any time limits. The DSM-5 or 6, whatever we're up now, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Yeah, that's my field, psychology. Great. Yeah, you're going to get however many months to grieve. No. I'm shocked that that's in there. But there is no timeline for grief. There is no time. Give your time. Give yourself time, and without judgment. It takes as long as it takes, and it's very, very personal. Okay? Create safe spaces for yourself. Okay? Whether that means your yoga studio, or it means your bathroom where you can take a candlelit bath. Give yourself, create safe spaces for you to deal with the feelings. It may be with a girlfriend in a bar, right? Whatever feels safe for you, so that you can let that emotion out, please do. Okay. All right. Self-compassion. Okay, this is my really big call to you all. Self-compassion. How do we have compassion for ourselves? We have compassion for everybody else. But how do we turn that lens on us? So I'd like everybody just to kind of close their eyes and take a breath. And if you ever find yourself in loss, or if you're finding yourself in loss now, this is a way that you can help get in touch with compassion for yourself. So I want you to imagine your very best friend, or someone that you love dearly, a child. Okay? And you are standing above them on the bridge that was in this slide, and you're looking down. And this beloved person, this person that you love so much, has experienced a loss. I want you to look at them and feel the compassion you have for them, going through the pain and the hurt. And now I want you to switch the roles. Okay? I want you to be the person who's had the loss. And I want you to be the person looking down on you with the same feelings of compassion you had for your loved person. And if that doesn't work for you, then look through the eyes of your higher power. How would your higher power look at you in the time of your loss? And then send yourself some love. and healing energy. So this is just a little exercise. You guys can take a breath and come back to help you get in touch with self-compassion, because we're so hard on ourselves and we run and we do and for everybody else, but we don't take time for ourselves. So how do we deal? That's how to feel. How do we deal? Extreme self-care. Make it like an Olympic sport for yourself. Give yourself time. Give yourself space. Give yourself alone time if that's what you need. Give yourself girlfriend time. Yoga, meditation, whatever speaks to you, that is self-care. Something that's really important, again, because feelings go into our body, is movement. So if you can get out and run, or you can get out and dance, or you can just, anything to move your body will help to process those feelings out. Okay? Say no. A lot of my women who come to me and they're grieving, especially with the loss, people, oh, please come out, you know, come back to the choir, or I'm thinking of a specific woman, come on vacation with us, and she's in the middle of this loss, and she wants to please them. Don't please anybody else. Do what's right for you. Say no. If that's not right for you, say no. Okay? Allow outside support. Okay? Many of us do this on our own, right? But you will move through the process much faster if you allow outside support. Okay? So whether it's friends, whether it's therapy, massage therapy, that's again a body thing that can help grief move through. Anything that's mind-body work, support groups. Intuitive guidance, if that's within your framework of belief. I know some amazing women who have amazing abilities to connect with the other side. And I went to see Teresa Caputo, if you know the Long Island Medium. Yes. Amazing. She had amazing shoes too, so of course I would love her. But the healing that took place when she connected with loved ones, and I think it wasn't just for the people that she spoke with in the audience, it was the whole room. It was just amazing. So if that's within your framework of belief, I know some people, so let me know.
Who knows some people.
Right? If you find somebody, EFT, tapping, that is one of the things that has helped my clients the most. It's one of my biggest tools in my tool chest. Another thing, communicate with the loss. Okay? Whether it's a person, or a lost limb, or a job, communicate it. Communicate with it. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Mm-hmm. I still talk to the people that have passed. Mm-hmm. You know, I watched a movie recently, and the gentleman had lost his wife, and it was years and years. He still set a place for her, and he still talked to her when he sat down. That helps him get through the grief and the loss. Okay? And honor the loss. When one of my best friends passed away 2 years ago, I bought a piece of jewelry, and I wear it, right? It's to honor her. I planted trees for people. So honor the loss, and if that helps you to move through it, then do something in their honor or in the loss's honor. And then when it's time, you need to give yourself permission to move on. Don't go there before you're ready, but when it's time, give yourself that permission. You may feel like it's a betrayal of the person or the loss. You may feel disloyal. You may feel like it negates the love that you had for them, or diminish the significance of the person. But go back to this eyes of compassion and allow yourself to move on. Anything else? Oh, okay, yes, one more. Helping others through loss. So this was all about you. We have friends who are going through loss. So just some little tips. Don't give advice because you do not know how they feel. Even if you've had a similar loss, you do not know how they feel. So don't say, oh, I know how you feel, right? And I think, Kim, you have a handout? Did you?
I'm going to have to send it. I couldn't find it.
Okay. About what to say and what not to say.
Stupidest things people say.
Right, she said in a book all the dumb things that people say and just like laugh about it and go like,
Yeah.
That's funny.
People mean well, but
They do.
Yeah, and not that.
it's astounding what they can say.
It's
Right.
awesome,
Right.
but just
Yes.
not take it so personally.
Right.
Yeah. If your friend has a loss, call them. Don't wait them. Call me if you need me. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Reach out to them. Okay?
Show up.
Empathize. Ask what they need because they're not going to tell you. And listen. Just listen. Okay? And chocolates too. Or a pair of new shoes. Okay, so this was just a really quick thing we could. This could be a student course. But we wanted to give you some tools and some insight as to the mechanism of grief and loss and some things that maybe you can do to help yourself and help others. So thank you for the time. And if you need support, Kim and I would be happy to talk with you.